Husband pushed his wife from a helicopter for insurance. Money, she survived and made him regret everything. Jason Connolly was the kind of man who could smile while stabbing you in the back. On paper, he was the doting husband, a successful investment broker with a beautiful wife, a lakeside mansion, and a lavish lifestyle. But behind the scenes, things were crumbling. He'd gambled away his savings, borrowed heavily from shady sources, and worst of all, taken out a $2 million life insurance policy on his wife, Amelia. The plan was simple: a weekend romantic getaway to a private island, a scenic helicopter ride over the cliffs, and then a sudden accident. Jason figured no one would question a tragic fall. After all, it would be written off as turbulence, or a simple slip. But Jason didn't count on two things. Amelia wasn't the fragile housewife he thought she was, and she wasn't going to die easy. The wind howled as the helicopter soared over the jagged coastline. Amelia, wearing noise-canceling headphones, watched the waves crash against the rocks below. Jason leaned close, his hand brushing hers. But then his expression changed, cold, calculated. He reached around her waist, then shoved. The world turned into chaos. She screamed as the wind ripped at her body, tumbling through the air. She caught a glimpse of Jason's satisfied smirk before he disappeared into the sky. Then impact, not rocks, not death, a miracle. She'd hit a thick outcrop of pine trees before splashing into a narrow inlet below, unconscious but alive. Hours later, she crawled onto the shore, bloody, bruised, and betrayed. And she remembered everything, while Jason cried crocodile tears on TV, attending a staged memorial. Amelia was taken in by a reclusive experimedic who lived off the grid. When he heard her story, he didn't ask questions. He helped her heal. Weeks passed, and Amelia began to train. Strength, endurance, strategy. By the time she was strong enough to return, she wasn't just looking for revenges, she was planning justice. Jason thought he'd gotten away with it. The insurance company had finally cleared the payout. His debts were paid. He was partying again, cocky, careless, and constantly drunk. That's when the letters started arriving. No return address, just messages scrawled in familiar handwriting. He thought, I was dead, but I'm watching. Soon, you'll fall too. He panicked, hired security, installed cameras, but nothing caught her, until one night he came home and found Amelia sitting in his favorite chair, strong, and holding the signed insurance claim in one hand. Miss me, she said. Jason lunged at her in a panic. Bad idea. Amelia had spent weeks preparing for this with precision and fury. She disarmed him, wrestled him to the ground, and forced him to confess everything on camera. Then she handed the footage to the police. Turns out, attempted murder nullifies any insurance payout and earns you 25 years in a federal prison. Amelia used the publicity to start a foundation for women who survived domestic violence and betrayal. Her story made headlines. Wife survives helicopter murder plot, brings husband to justice. She even got a book deal. But her favorite reward, watching Jason's face when the judge read the sentence. He didn't smile then, and he never will again. The courtroom buzzed with reporters and flashing cameras. Every seat was filled. The headline had spread like wildfire. Helicopter wife faces husband who tried to kill her. Jason tried to play the victim, putting on a sympathetic face for the jury. He claimed Amelia had jumped, that she was mentally unstable, that he had begged her not to. But Amelia was ready. She took the stand in a crisp navy blazer, her scars peeking just above the collar. Her voice was calm, unwavering. I didn't fall, I was pushed. I remember the way his eyes looked when he did it, like he was already counting the money. Then came the video, the one she secretly recorded when she confronted him. Jason's arrogant voice, slurring from vodka. You were supposed to die. Do you know what you cost me? That payout was my last chance. The jury took less than 2 hours. Guilty, attempted murder, insurance fraud, conspiracy. Jason's smug face cracked for the first time. As the bailiffs cuffed him, Amelia stood. She didn't yell. She didn't gloat. She simply said, you forgot who I was. Before the wealth and mansions, Amelia was a trauma nurse in the army. Afghanistan, Iraq. She'd seen bodies torn apart by war, and still kept fighting. That's where she learned survival. That's where she learned patience. She gave it all up for Jason, left the career, moved to the suburbs, tried to become his vision of the perfect wife. For years he dimmed her light, but surviving that fall reminded her of who she truly was. Now she was ready to shine again. Months after the trial, Amelia stood before a crowd of thousands at a women's summit. She was no longer a victim, she was a voice. Her foundation, Phoenix Rises, offered support, legal aid, and crisis shelters for women trapped in abusive relationships, especially those in wealthy or manipulative circles where the abuse was hidden behind smiles and yachts. Her book, The Fall That Freed Me, hit #1 on the bestseller list. Movie studios fought for the rights. She picked a female director and demanded the lead role go to a lesser-known actress with real military roots. Every decision she made, intentional, empowering, bold. A year after the verdict, Amelia visited the prison where Jason was being held. She didn't need closure. She just wanted to see the man who once thought her life was worth $2 million. Jason looked older, thinner. The arrogance had faded, the charm gone. He looked up, stunned. You came to gloat. Amelia shook her head. No, I came to say thank you. For what? For setting me free? She stood up, turned, and walked out. The sound of the door locking behind her was the sweetest sound she ever heard. Amelia now pilots her own private helicopter, licensed, confident, and free. Every year on the anniversary of the fall, she flies alone over the same coastline. She doesn't look down in fear anymore. She looks ahead, because this time, she's the one flying and no one will ever push her again.